Good evening. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Education to order. The next regular Board of Education meeting is on Tuesday, June 18th at 7:30 PM here in the board meeting room. As a matter of business, I'll give a brief report. The board has a little bit of work to do, about 5 minutes or so, and then we'll move on to the first item of our agenda that involves many of you in the audience, the superintendent awards. So if you'll just bear with us for a few minutes. We've attended 2 celebrations already today, several board members and myself. Congratulations again to our Fitch graduates. It was a beautiful personal morning this morning, and gosh, what a day we got to celebrate those students. Later, just before this, we attended a celebration for a number of our retirees. On behalf of the board, I'd like again to extend our heartfelt thanks to the teachers and the staff who are leaving us this year, but who have worked so hard to make our schools the special places they are and have been for many years. There aren't enough words to thank those folks. Last night, there was an F&B meeting. As you all remember, we have 2 appropriations out. The one for fiscal year 24 of about $180K and one for just over $1 million for some additional security work at the school buildings. Last night, RTM F&B unanimously approved recommending both of those be funded. Though education will take them both up at their meeting on Thursday at 8:15, and then they will be at the RTM on Monday night for approval. With that, I will move on to public comment.
Good evening. If anyone in person would like to participate in public comment, please come up to the podium and wait for the chair to recognize you. Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have up to 3 minutes to comment. Please note the time with the chair. If anybody online would like to participate, please use the raised hand icon. We have no raised hands at this time.
Thank you, Cass. Alan, superintendent's report.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. We are a popular place tonight. Congratulations to all the recipients who are joining us this evening. Thank you to all the parents who have participated in the various moving up ceremonies, graduations that have already taken place or are about to take place. We make a very special occasion for our students, and that's with your assistance that we're able to do that. I would like to say just we have Shwaha who's here, and Brenna. Brenna will be joining us next year again as the senior. But Shwaha has served as the senior student representative on the Board of Ed, and that has been a wonderful experience for us as members of this particular board. And Shwaha, you've done a wonderful job. Shwaha is off to NYU next year. And it's with that I'm going to give her a wee gift of appreciation on behalf of the Board of Education. Perhaps, Madam Chair, you could give it to her. Shwaha, you have to open it. Oh, you have to open it. Sorry. You can open it.
You go next anyway.
Yeah, you go next anyway. Come on. Everybody out there is dying to know what it is, so.
Oh my God, it's merchandise. Thank you.
I won't make you put them on, but you look great in that.
And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Shwaha and Brenna, for the student representative reports.
We are in our final week of classes / finals. We're taking our final 2 exams tomorrow, and then makeup day will be on Thursday, and then we'll have our last day of school on Friday, as well as our graduation ceremony. And I just want to make maybe a bit of a personal statement, Shwaha. Thank you so much for all that you've done. You'll be sorely missed, and it's been so lovely having you as a mentor here on the board, as well as a fellow spokesperson.
Yeah, I definitely don't envy the high schoolers that are still cramming for finals this week. But on the senior side, our prom was a success and it was held on May 31st in Stamford. And the seniors' last day of internships was yesterday. And today we held our graduation rehearsal and senior picnic at the high school. And our graduation is this Thursday. And it's been lovely being a part of the Board of Ed, and I'll miss you guys.
Thank you. You have to come back and visit. Sit in an exciting board meeting. With that, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. May I have a motion to approve the following the minutes of the regular meeting held on May 28th, 2024? Dennis, seconded by Julie. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Board committee reports. You have anybody? No? Okay. HHR has a meeting tomorrow night. We'll be at graduation, so I won't be there, but it's our last committee meeting before shovels go in the ground, proverbially anyway, on Monday. So that project will kick off. I'll have more of an update next week or at our following board meeting. Okay. With that, I'll move on to the presentations and discussions first, and most importantly, the superintendent award recipients.
So thank you again for families for being here. This is I always find this a special evening. I have the privilege of hiring before me any of the teachers, certified staff members that come to the district actually come through my office invariably at some point as the last step in the process. And one of the greatest privileges I have actually is to give someone their first job. We all remember back, whatever your profession is, how special occasion it is. I happened to interview a candidate today who actually is one of her own, actually have come through Darien Public Schools and has come back as a teaching candidate. And she asked me the question, what are you most proud of in Darien Public Schools? What's the thing that you would speak about? And honestly, I had to say that in my mind, the image of our young people this evening, and Thursday we'll be graduating the class of 2024. And I have to say, that we graduate smart people, but we also graduate people with a very caring heart. And I couldn't help but think about the mission statement that we have, and our students this evening here are going to be recognized by their principals for the reflection of their lives and effort and adherence to the district mission statement, which is to instill a love of learning, to be innovative creators, who contribute to the world beyond themselves with integrity. And that's what we are recognizing this evening. So parents, you had a wee bit to play in this. So congratulations to you, to our recipients, and we offer and extend our appreciation for all that you do. You are the brightest and most caring students that we have. You represent many, many other students in district. So it's a wonderful privilege for you too tonight. But it's also a wonderful opportunity, I'll say as a superintendent, to be able to give you the opportunity to honor all of your efforts. And as with that, we will have Hindley, the Hindley interim principal, Jan D'Amico, is going to come up and make our first presentation to our parents. Feel free, once we're done here, to take a quick photograph. I'll get up and make a presentation. Thank you.
So as you're aware, the students selected for the Superintendent's Award are chosen first by their peers and then by their teachers. And being considered for this honor, which aligns to our district's mission, recipients should demonstrate a love of learning, critical thinking, innovation, creativity, and a desire to contribute to the world with integrity and a purpose beyond themselves. Elle Mahoney is that person. Elle has spent her whole elementary school journey at Hindley following in the footsteps of her older brothers. She is a conscientious student who works hard and always asks questions to be sure she is on the right track. When working with peers, Elle makes time to listen and problem solve with them, giving them positive feedback while making them feel supported with her gracious demeanor. Her classmates say she always invites them into her group if they are on their own, and that she knows how to have fun, but always brings them back to the work in a gentle way so they can get it all done. On campus, she is greeted by our youngest students with enthusiasm and joy as she helps them at every opportunity, on the walker's path, with their belongings, or just in the hallways. They wave and they jump out of line to just get a hug from Elle. Whether working on academics, on teams and PE, out on the playground, or in the common room at lunch, Elle's kindness is authentic and compelling, bringing a light and positive energy to all she interacts with. We are so very proud of you, Elle. Congratulations.
Parents. Parents, you all are welcome to get up and take photos as the principals are speaking, if you like.
So this is Divya Patel. Can you hear me okay? Divya's peers and her teachers have noticed that her deep, genuine love of learning is evident in the classroom every day. With every assignment or discussion, Divya pushes herself to be the best version of herself. She readily engages in academic content with an open and curious mind, including quiz ball last week. As she learns, she integrates new information and ideas with her expansive background knowledge in order to make the best sense of what she's studying. She then forms opinions that align to her understanding of the world, and she applies both critical thinking and problem-solving skills to extend her learning to other content and the world outside of academia. Divya is not afraid to think outside of the box and often displays this creativity and imagination in her assignments and projects, which allows others to see the world from her perspective in new and different ways. Divya's character is of the highest quality. She is honest and genuine. Her strong moral and ethical principles always guide her to do the right thing and to make the most caring, courteous, and thoughtful decisions. She is respectful, selfless, and deeply kind. She regularly goes out of her way to care for others and to make the world a better place for everyone. In her essay for the school staff, Divya shared, "As a fifth grader soon leaving Holmes, I strive to make a positive mark on this beloved school, one of friendship, positivity, and joy. Even being nominated for this award was a big achievement. And while this award is of great significance, I have asked myself, do you have potential only if you win an award? I believe no prize can define who you really are, because it is the cherished moments with friends, the connections we make with others, and the goodness in our hearts that truly count." As you can see, Divya embodies the idea that kindness, hard work, honesty, doing the right thing, and honoring others are critical to being a good person. It is for these reasons that her peers and her teachers selected her to represent Holmes School for the 2024 Superintendent's Award. Congratulations, Divya. You have certainly left your mark on our homeschool community, and we are confident that you will continue to have a deeply positive impact on the world in the future. We're very proud of you.
I am thrilled to introduce Camila, better known as Cami Davies, as Oxbridge's winner of the Superintendent's Award for this year. Cami truly exemplifies the criteria for this award. She has always been curious and a lover of learning. Even at age 4, she describes how she learned the sounds that animals make from a book. Once that was accomplished, she went ahead to learn the animal names in Spanish. Also, her parents frequently take her to museums, and she reports that her favorite museum is a museum of natural history. She also tells us she loves asking questions, or as she puts it, like a lot of questions about what she is learning, so that she can grasp the topic better. Cami also tells us about her thinking process. When she worked with a team of her peers in solving a project done with the high school students who came to visit the class, the task was to separate oil from water, much in the same way that it has to be accomplished in an oil spill. Her team found out that a coffee filter was the most effective tool. As she said, we thought outside the box. She also pointed out that by working on a team, they were able to think through more creative solutions. Cami also describes how she and her mom volunteered for a group called Opus. They raised money for needy children to go to camp. When she met the young campers after the event, she described the joy she felt at seeing their happy faces. I would be remiss if I did not also thank the other Oxbridge finalists, Parker Zimmer, Adrian Bouchot, and Emma Williams. All of these children should feel proud of their success and their accomplishments. Cami is a thoughtful, personable student who seeks knowledge and information and finds ways to use it. As she moves on to middle school next year, we wish her continued success. Congratulations to Camila and her family. It has been my pleasure to get to know you guys. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Natasha Torrey, the principal at Royal School. Congratulations to Ken Kagampang for being selected as this year's Superintendent Award recipient from Royal School. Ken was selected by his peers, our faculty, and staff for consistently exhibiting the qualities of being a critical thinker, innovative creator, exhibiting a true love of learning, and most importantly, demonstrating empathy and kindness to all. Ken is looked at as an upstander and someone who acts with integrity by his classmates and teachers. Ken has been a Royal School student since kindergarten. When he first arrived here from the Philippines, Ken spoke fluently in his native Visayan dialect. Ken has worked diligently to also become proficient in English. It has been a pleasure to watch him grow and flourish over the years. Ken takes our Royal Kids Code seriously, and every day you can see him bring its tenets to life. Kind, accepting, honest, responsible, safe and peaceful, respectful. In sharing his speech with our faculty and staff, Ken gave examples of how he has served the community beyond himself. He is active in his church community and is part of the Royal Ambassadors Club, where he most enjoys setting a good example for our youngest learners. Ken has shown a love of learning by committing to his schoolwork. He works hard and is determined to improve each and every day. Ken accepts help when necessary and has become an avid reader during his time at Royal. Ken equates his love of reading with developing a strong understanding of the English language. Ken has shown kindness and empathy to all at Royal. His smile alone simply brightens anyone's day. During Ken's speech, he personally thanked each and every one of his teachers at Royal, stating something specific he learned from them. There was not a dry eye in our faculty meeting that morning. Ken was articulate, warm, and spoke from the heart. Ken's parents, Ron and Liza, have fostered his growth and been a partner in Ken's learning throughout his time at Royal. They have been his biggest cheerleaders and have navigated the delicate balance of allowing Ken to be independent while also advocating for Ken when necessary. What Ken puts forth into the world is an example of the care and compassion Liza and Ron have shown when working together with the Royal team. Thank you for sharing Ken with us. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize Ken tonight. He has worked hard during his journey at Royal School, and his determination, perseverance, integrity, and empathy has paid off. We are proud to have Ken join previous Superintendent's Award recipients and know he will continue to do great things in middle school and beyond. Congratulations, Ken.
Good evening, Board of Education members, Dr. Adley, and Cabinet. Tonight, Tokenique is proud to introduce our Superintendent Award recipient, Graydon Clarion. Graydon has many qualities and accomplishments that earned him the Superintendent Award at Tokenique. Graydon is a kind and supportive friend who goes out of his way to include everyone during recess. He consistently demonstrates high character and sportsmanship during recess and gym class, and was recognized through a sportsmanship award this year. Graydon was also nominated as captain of the student safety squad, a recognition of his leadership and maturity amongst his peers. Graydon's love of learning extends beyond the classroom. He participated in chorus and taught himself advanced recorder skills in order to play Happy Birthday for his former teacher. Gray is also a Connecticut and national Rubik's Cube competitor. He has memorized hundreds of algorithms to improve his speed and even started a business teaching other children how to speed cube. Additionally, he taught himself to play chess over the past 2 summers. Graydon has been a wonderful asset to the entire Tokenique community, and we are proud to have him represent us for this award. Thank you.
Good evening. I have the pleasure of representing introducing the Middlesex Superintendent Award recipient, Arden Nero. Selected by her peers and confirmed by the staff, Arden is the epitome of citizenship at Middlesex. She is well known by her peers as an outstanding student and a role model both in the classroom and on the athletic field. She demonstrates patience and kindness with each classmate when asked to collaborate, and she contributes to the learning of others through her class participation. Ms. Berzecki states Arden is super hardworking and always focused on the future. She is always pushing herself for the next challenge. Arden also treats her teachers with a positive attitude, greeting each one with a smile and a wave every day. Mr. Stram said Arden was a hardworking student who was a joy to teach. Her politeness and manners define her character. And Mrs. Coatsworth, her 7th grade science teacher, shared, every interaction with Arden is a breath of fresh air. Arden is mature beyond her years. Arden's current team teachers share that she is a tremendous role model for her classmates. She knows when to hard work and when to have fun. She is cheerful, kind, and a joy to be around every single day. She's a problem solver, and she gets along with all sorts of students, even if they aren't her close friends. She is always positive, always upbeat, and always tries her best. She's one of the most polite kids I have ever seen. Arden works to make the Middlesex community a better place. Her peers share, Arden is the most positive person ever. She always thinks about other people. Arden is always uplifting and has a ton of energy. And my favorite, Arden is friends with everyone. She is also upbeat every morning. I have no idea how she has that much energy at 8 o'clock in the morning. Arden is an exemplary role model for others and the epitome of a vision of a graduate, showing creativity, curiosity, empathy, and integrity in and outside of the classroom. Mrs. Arconti and Ms. Seigan share, Arden exemplifies the qualities we hope to see in all of our students: kindness, gratitude, effort, and positivity. She makes our school a better place, and we are incredibly proud of her. We are extremely happy to recognize her with this award as a sign of her efforts. Congratulations, Arden.
Amanda Smith is an introspective, inquisitive, and creative young woman known to ponder the deep and existential questions. During her time at DHS, she has been drawn to classes and activities that fuel her curiosity and wonder at the world around her. Amanda has consistently sought out a rigorous program and has mastered balancing academic excellence with a demanding extracurricular commitment. Most valuable player and most dedicated player are attributes used to describe Amanda in soccer and track. Her creativity, ingenuity, and diversity of talent are revealed through her exceptional artistry and her 2-year engineering project, a device that charges a cell phone by harnessing the heat released by the body during physical exertion. Amanda's innate curiosity, genuine desire for understanding, and ability to collaborate with others enhances the learning for all around her. Her generosity of spirit, kind heart, and warm smile define her and the deep respect of faculty and peers alike. Amanda has excelled in every arena and has done so with humility and grace. Amanda, you've been recognized for this award by your school community because of who you are and who you are destined to become. We are so proud of you, and Northeastern University will surely be a better place because of your contributions. Congratulations. Gaurav Parwal is a standout in the DHS community. His friendly and kind demeanor make him an approachable leader who goes out of his way to make others feel a sense of belonging. His easygoing nature and compassionate spirit bring a wonderful energy to any setting, and he lights up the classroom with his curiosity and passion for learning. An eternal optimist, Gaurav is eager to share his infectious enthusiasm with others, and his classmates hold him in the highest regard. As student government vice president, he leads with clarity, compassion, and sensitivity. Gaurav lifts others up and possesses a natural capacity to make connections that are authentic and enduring. He possesses an emotional maturity rare for someone of his years, in that he is keenly aware of those outside himself. His generosity of spirit is revealed through his first responder status within the Norotan Fire Department, dedicating himself as a volunteer for the welfare of others. As students and teachers meet Gaurav in the hallway, they can count on his warm and inviting smile to make their day a little brighter. He will be sorely missed at Darien High School, and Wake Forest University has hit the jackpot. Congratulations to you, Gaurav. We can't wait to see what the future holds.
So some of the smartest kids you'll see, some of the most caring kids you'll see, and I have to say, some of the most stylish kids you'll see. I'm just going to ask, just your indulgence for just one more photograph. For that, I'm going to ask all the 2024 class recipients of the Superintendent's Award to leave your Superintendent Award down, come up here for one last photograph, okay? Us just all together, please. Thanks. One last time, thank you.
With that, we'll move on to the meeting. I know a couple of our seniors are staying for the next section, but if those of you who are not interested in staying for the duration are welcome to leave through the exit or through this portion. The one thing I'd ask is that you not linger in the vestibule because we have to leave the doors open and it's a little hard to hear. We want to hear what our seniors have to say about their internship. So thank you all and congratulations and have a nice night. Okay. All right, with that, we'll move on to the senior internship update.
Good evening. Paula Blakely just told me that everyone in the photo was in blue and white, so I guess we're preparing for the high school already.
Yes.
So we're here just to give you a brief update on senior internship. As Swaha said before, the seniors finished up their projects yesterday and will be presenting tomorrow their findings on the experience of being employed for 3 weeks and having, a wide variety of experiences. If we can put the slides forward a little bit, we'll see the kind of things that our students are doing. They're doing 30 hours of work. They're completing daily journals. They're working with a mentor teacher at the high school as well as a mentor on site. We're excited to see their presentations tomorrow afternoon. And the next slide, we just wanted to say thank you, I'm sure on behalf of all of you, to our community for the tremendous support of our interns. So many of members of the class are participating. And this slide and the next slide, if we could just take a look, you'll see wonderful organizations in the Darien community and beyond who support our students. So rather than hear me talk about it, we thought that our seniors who are here with us might just give you a little bit of their experience. So Swaha, will we start with you?
Yeah, please.
Good evening again. So I was extremely fortunate to intern at Holmes Elementary School, so within our school district, and I interned in the art department alongside Miss Correa, but she's a temporary substitute teacher, but she was here for the whole semester. And although I had actually attended Tokenique, I received possibly the warmest welcome from both the staff and the students at Holmes, from Principal Blakely, who was just in the audience, to Miss Correa, the art teacher I mentored under. Everyone was willing to understand my long-term career goals, and they shaped my experience to reflect that. And art has always been a passion, so it was fun. And amazing seeing that same enjoyment in the kids and trying to instill it where I could. And while I've always had an interest in education, getting close to the hundreds of Holmes elementary schoolers definitely gave me a new respect for teachers, and for the career itself. And I am so, so grateful that I was able to spend my 3 weeks of internship with some of the sweetest, and I truly mean this, funniest kids I've ever met. So it was lovely.
Thank you. That's great to hear.
Hello, everyone. I'm Amanda. Just want to say thank you so much for having me here. Really glad to be here tonight. So I interned at this place called Infinity Fitness Gym, which is like a personal training and also group classes, offers group classes, as well as just an open gym for anyone. And my primary role was to develop research on a social media marketing project and compile all of that information and present it to my supervisor at the end of my internship. And at the end of that, I also added on this little side project where I tried to apply some of the math related concepts that I learned in my multi-class this past year of like optimizing, making a model to optimize certain constraints, depending on what kind of criteria you have. It's a little too much to get into right now, but that was really fun, and I learned a lot from that. And then I also helped out with the everyday operational things, so I helped run the classes. I got to interface with a lot of the clients that were already there, learned a lot of names, met a lot of different people, and they were all sad to see me go on Monday. But I know that I'll definitely be looking to go back there this summer, maybe, for maybe another opportunity to work with the staff. I just really liked it there, so I might go back. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Gaurav. The internship that I did over the past 3 weeks was with an organization called Soundwaters. This organization is based out of Stamford, Connecticut, and it's more of a like environmental group. So their goal is to save the Long Island Sound through like education. And the role that I was given was at Cove Island. I don't know if anyone's been down there. Beautiful spot, really good spot for runs and stuff. But what I was mostly doing was every day would have different elementary schoolers, middle schoolers come in. It'd be like 100, 120 or so students. And there were 13 other interns with me, and we would go about the day and we ran like 4 different stations. So I had the opportunity to work with these like preschoolers, really young kids, and also 6th graders. And we would teach them about like animal safety. We teach them about the different species in Long Island Sound. There was a lot of, we like used microscopes, stuff like that. Told them what microplastics were, what bacteria, whole bunch of like science stuff with little kids. So you can imagine how that went. It was a lot of fun and everything. This wasn't exactly related to what I want to do career-wise, but I really do enjoy working in nature, being around animals, canoeing, that sort of thing. So it's right up my alley in that sense. And I had a really good time with that. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So we thank you for your support of the program, and I think our seniors have had wonderful experiences. So.
Thank you, Ellen. Any board questions? Okay.
A quick comment.
Yeah.
Having seen 2 of my 3 boys go through the process and the third missing it because of COVID, I just have to say this is one of the most awesome programs that we offer from the district, and preparing the kids for these internships and then seeing them blossom, through these last few weeks of their senior year is just spectacular, because I know it's a lot more productive than my last 3 weeks of my senior year way back when. So thank you for everything you do and your staff.
Thank you. It's a wonderful kids.
Okay. Thank you again. And thank you to the students for speaking. Okay, with that, we'll move on to discussion and possible acceptance of contemplated gift from the Darien Advocates for Education of Gifton. Dr. Fettigan. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, Kaz. Good evening, everyone. This before you for the board to consider is a contemplated gift form. We're very grateful for our partners in the DAEG. who are offering a gift of $5,000 to help support our continued work with technology, AI, and our work with Holly Clark. The work is really around presentation that was enjoyed, and also for our parent community and staff earlier in the year, and continued professional learning.
Any questions? Okay. Well, with our profound thanks, may I have a motion to accept the contemplated gift from the Darien Advocates for the Education of the Gifted? That's Julie, seconded by John. All those in favor? That is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Further discussion and possible action on the 25-26 district school calendar.
This is just a second reading, Madam Chair, and I'll leave it up for any other discussion.
Okay.
The professional learning days are not on this calendar. Or sorry, the PLC days. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions? Robin?
Just one question, just about the PLC days. I know you're saying they're not on this calendar, but I think it's later on tonight in the goals.
Correct.
There was something mentioned about the additional cost of changes to the PLC days. And I guess my question is, are the changes due to the changes that we're making in the calendar? Or is it another?
That's another, that would be a change to how we do it, how long we offer the time, how frequently we need the buses. So it's a different thing than the calendar.
So it's not because we're making changes to the days?
No.
Okay, that's the only question I had.
Any other questions? Okay. With that, may I have a motion to approve the 25-26 school district calendar? That is Sarah, seconded by Dennis. All those in favor? That is unanimous. Okay. Update on strategic plan and board goals.
So if you remember, in the winter, we tried to represent the completion of the goals, or progress report on the goals, just given the wee legion below, which was green was completed, orange was in progress, not started was red, and or stuck even maybe red, and an open circle is scheduled out for future years. We can certainly, and I think we're going to have a wee reflection about this particular process moving forward, our continued reflection. The good news is we always do it, and we can always improve. And I know the metrics will be an ongoing discussion of how we might want to set those. So we have the strategic work, we have the action, we have the winter measures. We simply replicated the spring measures as to have we completed the strategic work as we actually said we would through those measures. So you can see how maybe orange ones have gone to green, that they're completed. The actions here, we sort of listed actions here. It's a wee bit more listy in relation. It's a wee bit different than the strategic plan. I can speak more to that. I think we can finesse how we want to do this moving forward. But these actions are sort of progress report of pertaining to the strategic work that has taken place since the winter. I'd be happy to open up for discussions. They ensure the safety and wellness. I think we've done a lot around safety, plenty around safety, and I think we're in an excellent position regarding that moving forward. And the wellness, the attention that we have given through mental health and otherwise. But I'll just pause there, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, if there's any questions.
Sure, you want to do it by goal, take questions? Okay, sure. Questions on goal 1? No.
Goal 2, we move forward just?
Please.
I got one.
Oh, yes, Greg.
So as we look at this, when we see all green, does it mean like mission accomplished? Are we done with the goal, or is there?
It means that the strategic work that we said there through the actions have been completed, yes. But if we want to continue it, I mean, we're going to have to write goals again for next year, so.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, sorry. The line is support the district priorities, the budget, and implement effective systems for short and long-term budgeting. We had a prolonged budget process at the end this year, but this didn't preclude what was set up through the finance office and otherwise. We did accomplish everything we had wanted to accomplish, or the board did accomplish what it wanted to accomplish through the digitization, the new calendar. Yes, we're going to have to reflect on the management of it down the stretch. This is a different question, I think, but.
Okay. Questions on this item? Okay. Yes, go ahead, John.
It's not quite a question, it's a comment. I mean, I think one thing we learned out of this budget process is we might have to set up the budget differently going into future years in that, you know, so we don't find ourselves every year facing revisions and having to go through the next 5 weeks. So I think maybe that's something we can work on out of the retreat and into preparation for the next fiscal year budget, which would be fiscal year 25-26.
Yes, I think we might change the wording on it, but I would suggest that a goal around how we budget would persist into next year.
Sorry.
Julia.
Oh, Julie.
Just a follow-up. Thank you. And is that, when we'll have that conversation, sort of our budget post-mortem, to be crass, is that for the?
Good question. So I think we have two opportunities. Alan, for the 18th, Alan is putting together the next set of board goals and strategic goals. So we'll talk about this a little bit in the next, but I'll just jump ahead. So I think, I think we certainly will have a goal around budgeting. I think we probably want a goal around how we use metrics. So we can start to talk about it next week. And then we also have time allotted in the retreat on the 23rd for a postmortem.
Okay, it's the looking back part. I want to make sure that we capture instead of going straight to the looking forward.
Yes, so that's an overall sort of looking at board operations. If we want to target that at all by any preliminary work over and above the self-evaluation, we could certainly do that. I think, again, one of the things I think we also want to do in July, which is not your look back, but also bring forward our forecast process and start looking at our forecasting in July. So that we're aware of what we're working with. But anyway, yes, we can start talking about some of that next week and can do it in even more detail in July.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on this one? Okay.
Year 3 of the strategic plan and vision of the graduate, I think actually on the spring measures that actually first one should be orange because there's one or two things that weren't fully complete in the strategic plan. So I can't say that we've implemented with complete fidelity in the sense. So I just note that. But I want to thank the board for their support in the area of a plan, no matter what happens to be in it, and also supporting the work of the vision of the graduate. I'm hoping that in some small ways you're beginning to see some of that work, how it matriculates into the actual curriculum and the daily life of our young people and the schools. And excited about that. But I'll leave it at that.
Questions on this goal? Dave?
Just repeating a prior comment that I'm not sure when we're going to see it, but thoughts on what we're going to do for the next 5-year plan and when we're going to start that work. Now that we're moving through year 3 here.
Okay.
Thanks.
So for the communication, from the communication committee, the work of that communication committee, the communication plan is being developed over the summer. Cassie will be putting that together to go back to the committee early in the fall. And we certainly haven't updated all the artifacts and documentations to reflect all of the guiding documents and vision, mission, and so on and so forth, but we continue to do that.
Questions on this goal? Okay.
This is the building projects. Thank you to the chair for chairing HHR, for those who have been involved in any of the committees along the way around. I want to say thank you to some of my staff who that this was a heavy lift with HHR, all simultaneously together. But we're moving forward, and it's great that the work is actually commenced. And I think we've adhered to. We had to go back for more money, clearly, but we went through that process successfully, and so we're ready to break ground as soon as this June 17th comes around.
Questions on this one? Okay,
So,
Robin.
just one thing on the communications one, sorry about this, on goal 4, on the spring measures, the last bullet, the policies, because that has not been completed, I think maybe it should be orange, because we did have, I think in our last meeting, a motion to have the policy committee take a look at an aspect of community communications or, so I just wanted to flag that.
Yep, thank you.
And I think that completes the board goals.
Okay.
So what the intent is for the next meeting to bring back a draft to start an initial discussion, and that can continue. I will say, if you don't mind, as I run into this strategic plan, and we can certainly continue our discussions about it. This is a really heavy lift for next week. I just share that just with what I'd like to do I don't like a strategic plan just administratively, administrators just having an input into it, right? Just solely like the cabinet. We have a retreat where I would want the full administration across the district to be contributing to what it might look like before I bring it back to the board. I'll ask just for your thought about that, consideration about that moving forward. It's just, we'll do it, but it'll be just simply the level I can do it at will be more cursory than I would want to do it and that I would think you might expect me to do it. But so I'll just share that as we move forward here. And enhancing teaching and learning. Amy, do you want to talk quickly this?
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Adley. So this has been an exciting year, year 3 in the strategic plan for enhancing teaching and learning. Recently, we shared with the board the update for the PDEC committee, our Professional Development and Evaluation Committee, the revision of rubrics for teaching and learning for our classroom teachers, our related service staff and administrators. The exciting work around that now is implementing the plan. So we'll be having PDEC work together this summer to think about developing some professional learning resources and calibration resources and tools, and in a way that we can workshop with our staff administrators retreat in August, and also for our opening days. Instructional rounds did take off in each of our schools. Those were largely facilitated by our staff, really beyond even the administrative team. And I've had teachers across all 7 schools comment on how much that has been a really valuable opportunity for them to have job embedded professional learning experiences across their school day. So that's really something wonderful and something that I would expect will continue with our school improvement plans as we work to develop the next iteration of those during the retreat with the administrators on the 19th. We have also had a professional learning series that we've offered to our staff. I think we've conducted 4 different sessions where we've supported staff in understanding more about the model for Understanding by Design, UBD, which is the framework. You'll hear more about this in our curriculum committee meeting on the 13th. To date, we've had more than 100 staff members on those last 3 sessions. The 4th one will be on June 17th, receive that professional learning in the area of UBD. That's nearly 20% of our staff having a consistent common dialogue around teaching and learning. And that's really exciting around how we design the curriculum and really in support of instruction in classrooms. And that's, again, a shared conversation in the same room, ELP staff with our high school staff. So that's very exciting. Those are, I think, the big things that I would mention around this goal. And then additionally, we'll look forward to on June 13th, opening up EduPlanet. We've made some really nice progress in curriculum development that's systemic across all departments, preschool through grade 12. And we'll be able to share with the board through the June 13th presentation on what that will look like and how our community at large will have access to those curricular documents moving forward.
Davis.
Oh, Dave.
Sorry, just a question on curriculum, because we're going to touch on this a little bit when we look at the district priorities next year. So I don't mean to jump ahead, but it's going to be the same question. Rich, when I look through, I see EduPlanet, I see curriculum writing, I see professional development, I see all sorts of different things that are going into curriculum development, curriculum writing. Is there any way you can consolidate that and give us kind of a roll-up of what all that is in all the various different buckets? And I guess the other thing I'd love to see is in terms of where we're looking for the work, is there like a progress monitor or some chart, like, we're done X% versus where we're looking to go over the course of what's planned out? Like, that'd be very helpful. We could see that either in the subcommittee or to the board level. Great.
I actually have a percent of work completed according to not only courses, but units within each course.
Awesome.
The exciting thing though, and something to understand about curriculum work is as standards are revised and as new courses or graduation requirements change, that's something that we have to continue to iterate. So with that understanding, it's like percent of what whole, but I can absolutely share percents across all the departments, preschool through grade 12.
I appreciate, I know the work never ends on that, but in terms of just some of the actual lifts we're doing right now, would be great to be able to see
Yeah, for
that.
sure.
And of course, there's ongoing work.
And we'll talk more about that on the 13th as well.
Great.
So in terms of that follow-up, is that something you want to send to us in an email? Is that the most appropriate way, or do you want to get that into a curriculum meeting? Just the kind of snapshot of where we are from a status perspective.
I think I can do that through a memo. We'll discuss some of that at the board meeting, but we won't open up, of course, every discipline and every unit. But we'll be able to show an overview. I can talk Dr. Adley about that. I think that would be done best through a memo.
Remember, okay. And then Rich, what about you in terms of Dave's question? What's the best way for
So I
follow-up?
can share it with Amy and then she can just incorporate that.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. Robin?
Just one question, just on this goal, and this maybe gets into the next year's discussion of the strategic plan, but and I think I've mentioned this in the past, just the goal of enhancing teaching and learning. I would love to see part of the strategic plan also emphasizing growth in student achievement, because that also is one of the things that we look at, which we'll, talk about as part of evaluations, and just of how we're doing, how the students are doing, and how our enhancing teaching and learning in terms of the curriculum writing and professional development is actually what the outcome is for the students. I'd love to see it maybe as part of the measures, some kind of a trend reporting as we get our updates on a quarterly basis to show, are we actually improving? So maybe it's, this quarter, this year versus, and I know that the measures aren't as easy as that, but just to be able to show trends and how our students are improving. Are they improving, or are we decreasing in various areas? Because I think that would be helpful to better evaluate if our efforts of enhancing teaching and learning are actually resulting in the outcomes that we would like. So, and I know that's a
Agreed.
big ask, but
Well, it's an ask the board has asked for, as you
and
stated
this is
before.
coming, it's all coming along. You've added many of the things we've asked for, but I think that's something I would love to see going forward as well.
Is that something you guys can be prepared to speak to next week, you think?
To set
I'm
the
not
goals,
saying-
no.
I'm not saying the answer, whether it would be in the form of a 1D or whatever we're on, or whether it's something you would incorporate, it would be at least helpful to know from an approach perspective, how you want to reflect that, whether you want metrics that are embedded with 1A, B, C, or you want to define it separately. If you could be thinking about that.
So totally agree with the concept, and I totally agree with the implementation of actually doing that. It's just how we do it, right? And
I understand.
it may sound simple to say we have growth of SBAC for whatever or otherwise, which is fine. I just need the wee bit of distance and time just to reflect thoughtfully on that. I can bring back, okay, well, we'll do a metric around SBAC or something.
Okay, well, then maybe we'll have a second read of the strat plan on the 23rd of July. So maybe in preparation for that.
Oh, that's totally
we can
correct.
have
Yes,
an
no,
answer.
totally. That's-
And Ellen, I realize figuring out what the right measures and metrics are is a very big task in itself, because you don't want to measure the wrong thing. You have to make sure that you're measuring the right thing.
Based
and-
on data that you've looked
And
at.
that, I know it takes time to come up with that, but this is just kind of
We'll
directionally.
definitely get there, and we'll get there
Right.
for like the set seal for the start of the school year, yes.
But that would be great if we could work toward that.
Yep. Dave?
Just a small ask refinement, perhaps, as you think about the metrics, it would be interesting to see a combination of not only just scores in terms of grades and averages, but also in terms of standardized testing to see as a control, if you will, to see, trend lines along both. That was it.
And I will throw out what I always caution is that numbers don't tell a whole story. So trying to think about what measures measure, whether it's the number of kids taking X course or I don't know, but we can't just focus on the numbers because that doesn't tell the whole story.
Yes, agreed. So go ahead. Well,
In the bullet points, Ellen, that you had put together for us as part of a mid-year evaluation, it was a lot of those quantitative and qualitative kinds of points that I think were extremely helpful. And to the extent that we can do something maybe that's similar on, in that time frame to kind of show, exactly the kinds of bullet points that you have put together in this memo and kind of have that be part of the reporting in the strategic plan. Is that something you already have been doing?
Well, that's the
just an
intent.
idea.
That's the intent.
Yeah.
But we have to agree on which ones to select,
Correct.
right?
okay.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
you want to keep going?
Sure. Okay, goal area 2, fostering culture that promotes wellness, diversity, and inclusion. Of course, Dr. Dad has done a tremendous job of leading this work this year in the area of thinking about all of not only the requirements that are coming out of the state, but how best to foster a culture and climate in each of our schools that are supportive of student and staff development. So this goal includes some work around climate teams. And as you know, we've implemented this climate survey in the spring in May. So I'm sure during not only our administrative retreat, but during the retreat with the board, we'll be talking a little bit more about the school climate team and the district climate data, which I think are also some metrics that we could be looking at within our goals and the strategic plan. In addition, this goal relates a little bit to, I would say, goal 4 in the way of thinking about retention of staff. Additionally, we've had some work done at the high school with the wellness center. There are some stats here. There is a requirement statutorily to include restorative practices, and we are well ahead of, that's a 25-26 requirement, and we are well ahead of starting to have an implementation plan for that in our school system. And 2B is around primarily the goal around considerations of the DEI team and report. And that action item was modified a bit for this year, our work as an administrative team in which we prioritize the considerations of that report. And so what we'll be looking to do is talk with the board further on that detail on the June 18th meeting. And I think one of the things that we'll be looking to do is to think about how the considerations in that plan will interface with the rest of the work in the strategic plan. That's really, we want to find authentic and natural opportunities to embed that work.
Questions on goal 2? Okay. Goal 3?
Goal 3 is developing balanced definition of student success through vision of the graduate. And this is one of those areas when we think about student readiness for what happens after Darien High School or their time at Fitch Academy, like our graduates who left today. We think, who had their graduation today, we think about those standardized measures are incredibly important, without a doubt. They're metrics that we need to have ensure that our students are demonstrating skills, attributes, and knowledge that they've learned while they're here with us, but we should also be thinking about multiple measures. I'm thinking about, for example, the seal of biliteracy and the stats that came out today from that assessment that has shown tremendous growth in our students and not only their success in language, but the breadth of languages that are represented. And we should be thinking about vision of the graduate and what are the opportunities for our learners to demonstrate mastery of those really important attributes that I would argue are really going to be the primary indicators of their success post-secondarily, right? Hardly anyone will ask exactly what their standardized assessment scores are. Those are important. They get you to the door, but those other competencies are really important. And I'm sure that Swaha will see that on her way off to NYU, our students who are going to Wake Forest, et cetera. So those will be things that we're looking to embed within the curriculum without, of course, sacrificing any area of our work in hitting the standards, grade level standards across the subject areas. Those will be multiple measures that, for example, Mrs. Parent was talking about.
Greg?
I'm just going to go backwards to the prior one, number 2, just a question on, as I was reading through it. talks about just in terms of the measures, it talks about just using focus group data, attendance data, and survey data. I know that survey data is related to this climate survey that was put out there. And I know that I raised previously some concerns around that and some of the potential outcomes that could be drawn from that data. Is that the only thing that we're going to use to make decisions around this, or is there anything else from a measure perspective?
From this initial year, we had, of course, the climate survey data where we have a district view and a view from each of the schools. But additionally, we have held different focus groups. I know the communications committee did. We have in the area of literacy. There was a focus group of recent graduates from DHS. So I think that's something that we'll continue to explore moving forward as a way to round out other data points.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I just think that this is something that's going to be very difficult to measure. So just really understanding exactly what we're doing about that to determine like what's actually, like what are we trying to achieve and how we're measuring what we're trying to achieve, I think would be helpful.
And just while we're on number two, again, sorry for going back and if I missed it, tuned out a wee bit, you let me know. But the DEI committee, the report on that will be on there's no point putting that in here. It's in here to say that it'll be reported out next week. And you'll get the recommendations that the administration went through, because I think you need to do that. We need to look at that separately.
Just, sorry, just on 2A, and again, this is on area 2, I was looking at the spring measures. And because I did have a question, there's something here about the annual focus group designed to gather qualitative information regarding the stakeholders' experience in the, SEL, climate, et cetera. The one question I did have was how we're going to be gathering qualitative information regarding stakeholders' experience. And I guess that's kind of on point with Greg's question as well, which it's just a tough, I'm just curious, just from a process standpoint, or if that's coming out of focus groups, for instance.
It would come out, but we still are, I think, developing what exactly those focus groups, what the process would be, how we would generate questions. We would look for, I think, trend data, really using first, looking at the district data and school-based data, looking for trends to inform the kinds of questions we ask, and probably the frequency with which we would conduct focus groups. But I think the point that we're making is it can be really hard to measure.
Right.
Even standardized assessments are not a completely accurate and always valid measurement of what a student knows and can do, right? They're a snapshot in a given time. So that's why I think we really need to consider having multiple varied measures and multiple varied pathways to demonstrate, for students to demonstrate what they know, and for us to demonstrate as a system where we're meeting with success and where we have continued opportunities for growth. That will be true with climate, it will be true with academics, it will be true with staff retention, really every area of our work.
So should that be orange, that first bullet point instead of green, because we're still figuring out how we're gathering qualitative? I'm just trying to understand, what, is this done? Is it still in progress? And, because there are questions around that. I guess that's my point.
So I think probably it was put to green because we hit the benchmark, the mile marker of where we thought we would be at this point in the year, but that we could argue that, like many things, for example, the curriculum work could be orange because it's ongoing. That work will continue to be refined as we move forward. We just recently got our data.
Great. Okay.
From the National School Climate Survey.
I know it's a complex task, but thank you for the explanation.
Dave.
Yeah, I guess I'd cut to the chase a little more. Do you have survey methodology you can share and any stats around these?
Survey methodology for the National School Climate Survey.
For whichever one, whether it's this quantitative focus group or whether it's the survey, I mean,
We will be sharing data about the National School Climate Survey.
but the methodology and what the expected variance and deviation is based on the sample size, based on the type of respondents, based on the survey method. I mean, those would be the type of things I think we're looking to get to.
Additionally, and again, that's a nationally normed survey. And one of the things that we're working on now, Dr. Daddy and I, with the National School Climate Organization, is looking at our data and comparison to the nationally normed data and thinking about the best way to represent that data and also the best way to use that data to inform our district work and school level work moving forward.
But normally you'd have control questions, you'd have different questions like that baked into the survey to really check for the fidelity of the data gathered? Do we have any of that in place for these quantitative SEL focus groups that are referenced or on the national level?
I cannot speak to the specifics of the questions that they've used to norm their data, but I know that they have done that. Statistics was probably not my best course in my program, but I can tell you that that information is accessible to us. And actually, we might even consider having folks from the National School Climate Survey come and present to the board.
And then do we do a similar exercise in the focus groups? Do we know if they had a methodology? If you don't, if you want to check, that's fine, but I'd be curious to know what process, what game plan they walked into as they asked.
No, we could give more detail about the process we've used, but we haven't conducted that through a real statistical analysis.
Okay, thank you.
Julie?
Just to clarify, for the focus groups are not quantitative, correct? They're qualitative. We
qualitative.
certainly haven't done any focus groups at the level to have statistically significant representative samples.
And I would argue that both qualitative and quantitative data are very important. Some of the things that are, whether it's children or our parents or our staff tell us qualitatively, they should garner a lot of our attention, right? Differently than just how people fill out something on a Likert scale.
Thanks. Thank you.
So that's 2 and 3.
Continue. March, okay. Do you want me to continue with 4? Please, okay. Great, so expanding the professional capacity of staff. Again, I would just circle back to the work of PDEC. Really, the development of an evaluation educator support and evaluation plan is just one very small portion of that work. I was actually talking with Marge and Barry today about some of our next steps and what we will do to use some of our PDEC work and our PDEC membership to strengthen our onboarding plan for our new staff that will be joining our team this summer, whether they're administrators or teachers. Thinking again about, we have just recently supported more than 20% of our staff in understanding our approach to curriculum writing in district. How will that interface with when we bring new staff, new to Darien staff in our new teacher orientation in August? And also thinking about how we train our new administrators and some of the systems and structures that we have in Darien Public Schools. Those are probably our biggest highlights that I would be remiss if I didn't once again indicate our gratitude. And I know Marge agrees, the work of the PDEC team is nothing short of extraordinary, and their continued commitment to professional learning. Every time I go into school, today we were at Middlesex, I had staff asking about opportunities for professional learning, curriculum writing this summer. I think it is quite extraordinary in just really the last 3 weeks that 20% of our staff has been having a conversation about this exciting work ahead. So we will also be thinking about how to make sure that our colleagues in the SESS department are at the table with us, not only when we're writing curriculum, but when we're engaging in professional learning. It's continued work that Shirley and I will engage in together. And something that we have not yet accomplished, and is certainly work moving forward, is thinking about our aspiring administrator, aspiring leader program in district. Teacher leadership is incredibly important. It's something that Dr. Adley and I actually spoke with some staff about today while we were at Middlesex, and thinking about what are opportunities that we can innovate to really build and strengthen our teachers' expertise, and also to learn from their expertise across classrooms and across schools in the way of professional learning. So that's something that Marge and I will continue to work on with our administration and with representation from DEA. And I know that Marge has recently shared with the board the update on the Increasing Educator Diversity Plan. We were very grateful that we had teacher voice in that work, and that's continued work for us in here as well. We're still waiting for feedback from the state on that plan.
Anything significant in the last one, the revised onboarding plan?
Just what I would say is we have developed an onboarding system that I think every time, just when you think that it's pretty comprehensive, you think, oh, there's something else that we should probably include. So that's a document that I know Marge and I have both live on our computers. It's a shared Google Doc. One of the things that just today we were thinking about is, again, how do we ensure that our new administrators coming in, for example, have an opportunity to sit with me and to sit with a department chair to talk about not only our approach to curriculum writing, but what are the curriculum priorities in each of the department areas. While Dr. Adley has the final interview with each of his staff members, Marge and I have talked about the fact that I want to make sure that I have an opportunity to have a one-on-one orientation with every staff member from a teaching and learning perspective. So that'll be, I think, a shift from this past year. I think that's very important. It's a time to not only communicate a warm welcome and to start to establish relationships from central services, but also to clarify expectations for teaching and learning that are systemic and clear across all 7 schools and departments. Katie.
Thank you. Amy, could you speak a little bit to some of the more subject-specific professional learning? When I'm reading through this, I see that the school psychologists are mentioned specifically a few times, but I don't see other specific subject matters. Can you kind of give us an overview about what's going on kind of by like department and subject?
Right. So, well, we have our PLC structure, which is, I would say, the primary lever for professional learning across the departments of the secondary schools. So, for example, in the secondary social studies department, there was a focus this year on using primary sources to support professional learning and, of course, the new standards for social studies. At the elementary level, the primary focus is in the area of literacy, thinking about the science of reading. That will continue in the year ahead. For example, in science, the integration of the NGSS standards, at the grade 9 science department spent so much time this past year thinking about how they could include within their instruction avenues to have students demonstrate vision of the graduate while hitting those 9th grade standards, for example, for earth and living science. So those are some of the examples and from the classroom general ed setting. I don't know if you would surely want to share anything around the school psychologist in particular.
I think you identified the different training.
That's really helpful, Amy. Thank you. It's nice just to have like a quick overview and a touch point into kind of like what is going on, especially in those core subjects and just, the best practices across all the different subjects. One quick follow-up on the science of reading component. How do you see with the implementation of the pilot next year, how do you see professional development when there is a curriculum that has been, adopted? How do you see that fitting into the goals? Like what's the timeline that you would imagine?
Just to clarify, are you talking about professional learning once we've adopted curriculum resources, for example, in the 25-26 school year beyond the pilot? One of the things that I would be very eagerly anticipating and hopeful for is more concentrated professional learning time where teachers aren't pulled from classrooms, but where, for example, there may be PLC time, for example, like we have at the high school. The elementary level teachers are in their classrooms all day long outside of just when the children go to specials. This will be a very significant shift in instruction. So again, you often hear me talk about we can't separate curriculum from instruction and assessment and professional learning. So when we think about new curricular resources, we have to think about any shifts in instructional strategies, shifts in how we assess our students with their learning, especially in those concepts of science of reading. So it would be my great hope that we would have time built into the schedule similar to the high school. I think that's something that Dr. Adley has signaled to the board. Additionally, one of the things that I do know is that we can't hope for just those big days to have like a big bang for our buck, but we have to really think about how we embed professional learning opportunities throughout the course of the day. What is the dialogue during the day PLCs, during grade level meetings? That's really important. How we provide feedback to teachers during observation cycles, for example, that's another opportunity for professional learning. All of those things have to be in alignment.
Thank you, Amy. That was exactly what I was looking for. And I would just say, to the board and to all of us that I think that we really need to take note of the comments that Amy just made and make sure that we're planning this into next year as we are going through that pilot. It is going to be a shift in order to accomplish the things that she's talking about. And it's not something that's going to be easy for us to do in the current year when it's needed. So I definitely think that should be a major consideration as we are also simultaneously evaluating the pilot.
I would just say, again, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the expertise and professionalism demonstrated by the group, the steering committee, the literacy steering committee in district. It's 45 educators. We have staff preschool through grade 12 involved in that work. And what I can say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is they are very eager for professional learning opportunities. And approaching the work through the pilot and really doing a district study this past year, every single person in that group has talked about, well, this has been a really wonderful professional learning opportunity. It's made me question what I do in my own classroom. It's made me think about the standards differently. So that work should continue. It's the most fundamental work of a district.
Yes, thank you. And just to clarify, I guess I fully am counting on all of you to continue the great work that you're doing, and that's where it needs to happen. I just want to make sure that as a board, we are giving you the support that you need, that we're not passing calendars that make those changes impossible, and that we're really listening to what you need in advance so that we can make those flexibility.
Goal 5.
Goal 5. Okay. So goal 5 is around enhancing systems to promote efficiency, coherence, and communication. This, again, work has to do with, I think, certainly my colleagues around the table who are involved in the communications committee might want to step in at any time. There also, I know, is the consideration of potentially looking at a different student information system. Right now, our district has been using Aspen. That is something that was not part of our year 3 plan. It was something that we would need to consider if that were still the board's wishes moving forward in years 4 and 5. There's continued work on policy. One of the things that I'm looking forward to in the year ahead from a teaching and learning perspective is aligning some of the statutory changes in policy with our work from a curriculum and instruction perspective and working with Marge. And that is what I would say would be the major highlights there for communications.
And just also note to the board that was presented at the Communications Committee, the media package has been completed by our senior, Annika Manuel. So she presented that to the Communications Committee. And for the new year, we'll be ready to roll out our new district logo with the various blue vector numbers and so on and so forth. So there'll be a wee bit of consistency around the website and communications in general.
Questions?
Just one question just on 5B regarding the revised and aligned progress reports and grade reporting practices. What exactly is that and what's driving the need for a change?
That came out of a contract, partly came out of the contract and negotiation last with teachers, that we would sit down and look at the progress monitoring report cards. And so that we would look at those with a group of teachers and come back with some recommendations. Actually, one of the recommendations you've already sort of approved through the calendar, just the movement of the
conferences.
Conferences, thank you, yes.
Okay.
But this is also to continue that discussion about what those progress monitoring reports should look like.
I've neglected to mention that. Thank you for pointing that indicator out. So whenever we make a revision to curriculum, we should be simultaneously thinking about how do we assess students, how do we measure student learning. So for example, the work in the area of literacy that's happening, the work that's happening with play-based learning in pre-K and kindergarten and then up through the grades, that should make us look at those progress reports and think about, do those accurately communicate to parents and families the progress that children are making? Or is there a revision that needs to be made not only to timeline, but to like the content of what's in those progress reports?
Okay.
So is that a year, that's an iterative process then?
That would be an iterative process.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So
And then
when we, for example, make some decisions around how we're moving forward into curriculum with new resources, for example, possibly for literacy, we would want to take a look simultaneously. And then, for example, social studies standards, which have changed, right? So is there anything, especially in grades 4 and 5, that we need to adjust?
okay. And then would those, when you have recommendations, would that be at the curriculum committee level, or how would that get, or is that reported at all to the
That would be a
board?
first for me.
Yeah, I don't think we've
I
ever
just was,
seen,
I
I
was curious. I
Yeah.
didn't know.
mean, I think that's more operational than.
All right.
So
Thank
probably
you.
at this table?
Okay. Just an update, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, Greg. Dennis.
Dennis is first.
Mine's simple as, I think we have to just technically, we're replacing Aspen with Power School, not replacing Power School with
Yes.
Aspen, correct?
Yes.
So just
We'll
to
just
clean up the
flip-flop that.
document.
Yeah.
Greg.
I just had a follow-up question to what
It's in both, sorry, it's in both fall or winter
is.
and spring.
Just when we were talking about this, the kind of circularity in terms of the feedback for students. Is there anything we do in terms of collecting or giving feedback to teachers? I feel like we used to have that, but I feel like it doesn't exist anymore. Is there any feedback loop for teachers to collect like feedback from parents, from faculty or anything like that in terms of like how they're doing to know like, I did a great job this year. Here's some areas I could do better. Is there anything like that?
I think.
Go ahead.
So I think one of the areas where parents are able to provide feedback right now would be some of the indicators on that climate survey have to do with, you know, are the learning goals clear, the learning goals for my child. So I think some of those indicators would speak to that.
That's not specific to the teacher. I'm just thinking like if I were a teacher, if I wanted to know how I could get better. I mean, I think that some of the professional development's a great way to do it, but I would also want to get like specific, maybe not like if I were a parent, I probably wouldn't have my name out there, but anonymous,
trying to do that.
like actual feedback from parents of the class that I'm teaching.
I think the probably the most appropriate way to do that would be firstly following the chain of communication, speaking directly to a teacher about your child's experience or any child's experience, and then also with the building principal if need be.
But there isn't a.
There's not like a formal, that's really more what I'm asking. Not,
No, there's not.
Can I just, one follow-up, does the PDEC kind of teacher evaluation structure provide for that kind of specific feedback for teachers? Obviously not from parents, but I would assume that they would get some kind of specific feedback as
Right.
part of that process.
Right, so the plan that we've just put forward for the board's consideration in our May 28th meeting is around educator and leader evaluation and support. So there are feedback mechanisms within that plan.
Okay, but that would be from administrator or their supervisor,
Right.
probably, right? But not a
But
feedback
not from a
loop
parent, right?
Okay.
That really we would want open dialogue between parents and classroom teachers or related service providers to happen as parents and
Right.
family members see fit.
Thank you.
Are there districts that have more formal mechanisms for harvesting feedback from either students or parents?
Not that I'm aware of outside of like the some of the indicators in the school climate survey, which would provide more trend data, not specific to an individual teacher, especially when children have, for example, the middle school and high school, many teachers across the school day.
Katie?
I think that we all know this, but it's worth stating explicitly that that we do have quite a bit of informal measures in place, right? Like thinking at the elementary level in parent-teacher conferences, right? Like that's an opportunity for parents to sort of say directly to the teachers, you know, like I noticed they have trouble with this. Like, how is this going, right? Versus like, oh, they really love this component. They come home excited about that. And then I think what Amy said too about the chain of communication is important as well. You know, if you do not feel that that parent teacher, that direct teacher conversation is enough, you know, then it's going to the building administration, right? And I think that the PTOs are a really good resource for that. Like they've been really good at pushing that chain of communication for a lot of years, like letting parents know what the appropriate first steps are and how to escalate. And then lastly, I just want to say that that also works for positive feedback as well. You know, it's a really nice thing to send a teacher an email about something great that's happening. It's a really nice thing to send that teacher an email and copy the building principal on it as well.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole now. I'm just throwing it out for future conversation. I mean, I've seen where you have to do your teacher or your student, as a student, your teacher evaluation before you can clear grades. So that's been something that I've seen, probably not appropriate for a kindergartner or first grader. Maybe that's more for the parent, but there certainly are schools that go out and collect surveys. What did you think of the teacher? What areas were great? What were their strengths? What were their weaknesses? So I think to follow up on Greg's question, that's something that gets done. And I don't want to go any further on this for tonight, but it's certainly a model to consider in the future.
Thank you all. Okay, anything else on 5? 6?
I think we have spoken for the most part to this. I think this has been pretty clear. We've accomplished a lot of what we need to do here in this area under Leon's leadership, and I'm not anticipating big security initiatives moving forward.
Well, that's more because we've completed what was recommended, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on 6? Okay.
I would say just that the middle school architectural study that we deferred, so we have to sort of discuss.
It's in the next section,
It's in the
right?
next section, yes.
Not meaning the goal area 7, but the next agenda.
Right.
item.
Yep. Great.
Goal area 7. Do you have a question on 6? 7. Go ahead.
So I guess on 7, again, don't want to get too deep here, but just questioning or thinking about goal area 4, expanding the professional capacity. That seems to be teacher focused and, building their actual skills inherent in them that they've developed. We also have a conversation here about technology. What are the tools we can actually provide to teachers to provide their capacity as we think about that? So maybe just a thought of where the interplay is between those two segments and how maybe we can interrelate them a bit more going forward.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else on 7 that you guys want to say or that anybody wants to ask?
No, I guess I'll just be a wee bit redundant in the comment that I appreciate the board's attention to this, as arduous sometimes as it is. We pay attention to this. We're conscious any moves that we make are deliberate and so on, and it is helpful. And I pay kudos to you because it's not always this level of detail or this level of accountability or this level of follow-up. And so just for what it is worth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to initial discussion on 24-25 district priorities. Our primary objective in this section is to understand the administration's key priorities for the coming year, along with a very high-level review of the impact of the work, which staff, general timing, general idea of what the funding requirements would be. Alan and his team are going to walk through each one as part of that. And as part of that, they'll define what the item is and whether this is 1, in response to state requirements, 2, an administrative priority that they believe the district should take on, or 3, an additional priority that may have been identified by the board, the community at all. We'll keep the conversation fairly high level tonight. It's really just for people to understand what's in the hopper. A lot of these will be developed in anything that we are sure, administration is sure it is going to take on will be developed in more detail in the next iterations of the strat plan. Some of the other items we need to figure out if we're going to move forward with them. We don't necessarily have to make every decision tonight. So for example, if we've, in July, we have our second read of the strat plan, we'll also be looking at a forecast for the coming year. And so there'll be a better financial context also for us to take a look at some of these questions. So with that, I'll turn it to Alan to walk through what is in the document and why it's in there.
So when I was asked to do this, one of the lens I'm taking here is just like even I can say we've got a lot going on. Okay, so there's a lot going on in the district, from everything from middle school to legislation. So I do think it's a time just to take a wee pause, a wee bit, right, and focus on the things that we have to do because legislatively we have to do it. So within this, it's not designed to do new stuff. Now, there are a couple of things in here that sort of lean into the following year, like sort of flag a wee bit some things. The board can help me decide what you want to do with those thoughts. But with the play-based learning, we don't really have an option on that, right? When I don't say we don't really have an option, we don't have an option. So that is a priority, a legislative priority, and the instructional and curriculum writing materials. I would say, like, if you don't have a viable, coherent curriculum, you don't have too much. So the work that Dr. Fettigan is doing on that, I've often said that I've worked with many curriculum directors, assistant superintendents for curriculum. Can we just crack the code of actually getting the work done in a cycle? And Amy's been able to do that. So the idea of supporting curriculum right in these areas, I just would say to you that it's extremely important to do that.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Are you saying basically this is sort of the iterative curricular work that we do on a yearly basis? You just represented it here. Okay, thank you.
The K-3 literacy, we'll talk a wee bit later this evening, but I'm pretty proud, you might want to say, of our stance on that, how we've attacked it strategically. But again, we have to do it. We are doing it. We've taken an open-minded approach from the start with it, and thoughtful and deliberate approach. But we have to do it. So that's a non-negotiable there. If we have to eventually purchase the complete program, you are looking like something in the range of $600,000 or more.
Alan, just one question. Is the Right to Read grant, the 145,000, is that something we are receiving, or is that already been received?
That's already been received.
Has it already been used?
Only a portion.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
The ELP program, some of these things are implementation. We got to focus and make sure that the transition to 4 to 5 days actually works well. And so that's an attention to detail, attention to implementation. There's not a huge financial or otherwise. Expanded preschool opportunities, that's an implementation thing too. We said that we would try and support additional services to our young people in the preschool through schedule and so on. The UBD and UDL, that is a focus for it. It has been in the strategic plan. Amy has got more people involved in writing curriculum than I can recall in the district, to be honest with you, who are actually trained in this particular arena and are signing up to do the work. I think we have more UDL work to do, but that would be something that I would say is critically important. The school's psychologist intern program, that's a matter of just implementation and monitoring it. The wellness of training for staff, I think we need to continue to do that. We've committed to do that. We should continue to do that. HHR facilities speaks for itself. We can't let. We have to attend to that issue. The start times. I'm going to just say at the table here. I'm just going to say it. I don't think you should do it. You want to
repeat that?
Do or you do?
I don't. I do not.
It just wasn't.
It's not that I don't agree with it. I just think that there's just too much going on to give the attention. I don't even know if we can do the lifting of it, let alone the finances of it. That's just my professional judgment. The trade-off of it at the moment, I don't think we're hurting our kids. I think there's other ways that we might be able to transition into that. And actually, I talk about the professional learning next. I have flagged this that I would like to look at, not to implement this year, right? But as part of the budget moving forward, look at what ways do we support staff professionally. You talk about recruitment, you talk about retention issues. These areas where you support staff and professional learning is a huge attractor to districts. And I would like to look at that thoughtfully as to how do we provide the professional learning opportunities for staff and needs for staff. There's no magic bullet there, but moving forward for the following year, I'd like to look at that. So if you want me to flag something, there's something that I'm flagging, and there may be ways of offsetting a wee bit some of the school's start times, at least potentially leaning into a wee bit of some additional professional learning times in the morning, which in turn would mean the kids would go a wee bit later. So, but I don't want to presuppose I got one model. I don't, right? I want to explore that. The EduPlanet, thank goodness that we have that and that depository, right? That will be able to be utilized by staff and our parent community. And we have the progress report, statistically what has been completed, what has not been completed. I would say like, look, let's continue to support the curriculum writing, continue to support any modules regarding this, ways for parents to access it, or anything we have to do in that area. That's not new. Restorative practices, legally, we have to go through mandated training and bullying legislation training. So those are things we have to do. The new educator and leadership PDAC plan, that's an implementation thing, but we have to support our staff in professional learning regarding that. The transition programming, that's for special education and support services department. Should we want to do a transition program for our students once they leave here?
That's state mandated?
No, it's state mandated that if they have programming, that they have to have programming, but this would be providing the programming here on site.
But sorry, you just make myself get it. So I'm not confused.
It's not.
The state mandates transitional programming. Is that a new mandate?
No, may I respond to that?
Yes, please.
The mandate's always been there. It was actually to 21, then it changed to 22, and then it changed to the complete year of which students turn 22.
Right.
So for last year, it was one day before the 22nd birthday. And what changed was now it's for the entire school year, a student turns 22. I think, and what we presented to the board is as we're looking with our steering committee, looking at transition, if we were to design our own program with our own location and our own staff, that's what we're looking into. And we said we'd come to the board in the fall when we have more information.
Currently, we are using different districts.
We also use we use RISE over at Sacred Heart. We have some of the programs, we use different districts, a local district also for 2 of our students. And we've also used different programs throughout Connecticut that offer different support transition services.
Thank you.
RISE is one of them. There's Chapel Haven is one, Vista is one. There are different programs that are state approved that many of our students have used, both in state and sometimes out of state, depending on the program appropriateness.
Just one comment, Ellen, and I understand this is all kind of future, but I had sent an email just with questions more around the financial kind of analysis and thinking, which is kind of comparing what we're doing currently, projecting that into the future versus building it on site and what those costs would be, and kind of thinking through what makes the best sense for the district, given our students, et cetera. So that would be really helpful information when we get that update in the fall.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I move on?
Please.
So the facility study for DHS, that was the library, the library and the middle school in general. We have to decide what we want to do with that. Are we going to move forward with that plan or not? Website redesign we have talked about. It still needs work as far as I'm concerned. And we should do that. The evaluation of a student information system, whether it be PowerSchool or anything else, regarding the comparison against Aspen. And the educator diversity plan would be just the implementation. Now, having said that, I would not preclude me coming back in the fall with something that's not on this list. I don't want to, but that's kind of where we are going.
Dave.
If I may, just to follow up, and maybe not for tonight, on the evaluation system, whether it's Aspen or PowerSchool. So you remember we had seen this before. PowerSchool wanted to send a cohort out, or wanted us to send a cohort to PowerSchool Academy for a trip. Or is it? I remember former chair didn't like that one much. Do we still have that requirement for sending people out to visit as a first step?
They're not too inclusive. So yes, they would like you to go to their.
Okay, so there'd be some cost to send the cohort out to view it, and then we would make a decision, then we'd have this 300,000 implementation.
Yeah, and this is not a quick fix, so this is multi-year to roll out.
Of course, yeah. All right, but we still have the road trip first.
Yep.
Thank you.
On the facility study for DHS MMS Tokenique, we also had talked about an architectural study, which we postponed. Are you proposing here the architectural study first? Is that your proposal?
I believe that was part of this, right?
So it's architectural and essentially master plan facility conditions.
That's
for
this.
those three. That's what that is.
Yes, okay. And then any decisions like library, et cetera, would follow subsequent.
Correct. So you'd get the report, it would make recommendations similar to what you did in 2016. And then you'd either choose to act on it in a future year or not.
Yes, okay, thank you. Dave?
I guess, and then the recommendations would be a comparison based on ed specs or compare, like, where the recommendations come from?
So the architecture and their engineers would come on site, they'd evaluate the buildings and the needs, they'd look at enrollment trends. So typically they look, do you need an addition? Do you not need an addition? Do you need to create a space for a program that maybe you're looking at? Do you need to do boilers, roofs, et cetera? So they don't create the ed specs. And then once you determine based on that report, is there a project you want to do? That's when you create the ed specs.
Okay, thanks.
Julie?
Thank you. Dr. Adley or Jill, I guess, I'm assuming this is not listed in priority order, first to least. And so if you could help us help you, what is helpful from us at this point? Do I see something missing? Do I see something glaringly I mean, it's a combination of things that are already budgeted and happening. And I appreciate there's a lot of work that now goes into them. And then there's some things that aren't yet on the table. So I'm not feeling like I know how to give feedback, or perhaps I shouldn't right now.
No, I think the question is ultimately for today, just first and foremost, understand the scope at a little higher level. Then once we dig into the strat plan, we're looking at metrics and we're looking at outcomes, and we haven't necessarily tied it to what it costs. And so the hope was to back up a little bit and see it at a higher level. If there's something missing, yes, it should absolutely be identified. If there's something that we see on here and, it says paint all the classrooms purple, right? Clearly not a priority. Please remove that, Alan. I would say that's something, there's nothing that's that obvious, of course, and nor should there be. But that's the exercise is to make sure that this aligns with, before they go and put their strat plan together, that the board agrees with the high level priorities that administration and in this case, the state have outlined.
And then at the
Go ahead.
At the retreat, do you expect that we don't tinker with this list also, right? That's where we'll come up with some new ideas.
I think we continue to tinker. I think, look, we'll see another view of the strat plan on the 18th, which can't be done independently of this. We have our sign off on this year's version of the strat plan in July. Again, can't be done independently. And then, to Alan's point, as things develop, something could pop on or off, but it's meant to be so that we're making sure we're doing the discipline of that high level thinking before we just dive in. I appreciate your point of how exactly to respond. Dennis.
So I'm in the same camp as Mrs. Best, as I'm struggling with not just what the priority is, but to me, it's also the bandwidth we have to effectively achieve these goals. And to me, there's no priority here, but there's also there's a dollar amount, but there's not who's the owner, how much time it's going to take, what are the expectations in that time? And I realize maybe I'm jumping ahead too soon, but I think that's what I need to help to decide what this means and how to prioritize even, because I think I need to have that kind of information before we even say what our priorities are. I mean, obviously, there's some things we have to do, but then the optional ones, we have to decide how much bandwidth we have and then decide of those, which are the ones we want to accomplish year 1, year 2, year 3, or maybe not even to your point of later start times. Maybe it's something we don't even try to accomplish.
I think some of that's operational in nature, and that administration needs to take a look and decide what's year 1, year 2, year 3, based on their understanding of capacity, personnel capacity, et cetera. But we just want to make sure that the board and the administration are aligned, not misaligned. Katie.
Thank you. Yes, I had a question, a request for additional layers to this as well. I think that it's very hard to look at a list that doesn't have any sort of ranking. And I understand that we might not be ready yet to really put, a 2 before a 3. I think perhaps tiers could be helpful. Additionally, I think status would be a helpful layer. Dr. Adley, when you started walking us through this, you mentioned several things were mandatory, several things were ongoing, they were implementation. That would be a nice thing to note as well. Just kind of to Dennis's point, right, about mandated tiers, top tier, secondary, maybe even a not recommended. So I think that would just be helpful in helping all of us have a clearer picture of where we are and where we want or could go. Pivoting now to calling out something that I think is missing. I don't see anything on here about SES implementation. And I'm curious how the recently adopted admin and restructuring is going to be affected. I would think that there would be a priority for SES implementation here. One example, the person who runs ESY will no longer be with the district starting in July. How's that going to work? So there's definitely going to be a lot of things that are going to have to shift very quickly.
Greg?
I was surprised that there's not the school technology policy on the list. That was one thing that I saw that was missing. I agree with the tiering, something like that. I did have a related question. Is this list intended on being, like Dr. Adley, are these your priorities or is this your best guess at the district priorities? Because I know like one of the items on here you've already said you actually don't think should be on the list. So
Well, I'm
how
just
should we
taking,
read this?
I'm literally just taking a position on that because we've bantered it around a little bit at the table here. I'm just giving my honest opinion and the board could overrule that should they wish to do that. This was I'm just responding to the board request to what's the priorities, relative priorities for the year that we know this year. So they would be reflected both in the budget, and if it's not a budget reissue, maybe it's an implementation issue per se. So it's just my first flush at responding to the request. That's what's on the table for next year. And there's a wee hint in here there, or just about leaning into next year with some things if they roll over. But I am happy to
So more like a mixture of what you think we've kind of raised as a group, as well as things that you think are high priority.
Yeah, and there's things that, the states tell us we have to do. And
Yeah, like need to have or things like that.
Yeah, I think to that point, a category that indicates the source of it would be helpful, and then the priority level. So because
it would be more.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
It would be more reasonable if I could make the request of the board to put a wee bit of clarity to this and the board goals. I'm just being redundant tonight a wee bit, but then it would be realistically with this strategic plan. I just don't think I can bring the strategic plan, skin it down as to what it says to do in 4 and 5, and then continue to work at it for the 19th. I'm just worried about the quality of that document that I'm going to produce. Certainly this I can polish up and put a bit more depth and potential board goals proposals, but I mean,
to be efficient with Dr. Adley's time, like why wouldn't the board just pull together a list of the things that we think are missing from this, send it amongst our group and then share it with him so that he can incorporate it?
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I mean, in terms of Julie, your comment, like what the board feels.
Yeah.
I'm sure that would be appropriate.
Yeah. Robin?
I mean, again, I agree on the priority. I do think having state mandated as a tier in itself, I think is important, and just rank these kind of by order of priority to the extent that you can, and maybe it is in groups. The one thing on the student information system, and I mean, I know this has maybe been thought about or people have complaints, but I guess one question I have is that I had heard, I thought in the past that Aspen, from a technology perspective, the back end system is extremely robust, even though the front end may be cumbersome and not necessarily easy to use for a parent. And so my main question, especially given the heavy lift that this would be, is why do we need to change, or is this just on this list because people have given feedback that they don't like Aspen? And I'm just asking because I know a technology change like that is a massive undertaking. And my view is if it's working, why are you going to change it? That's just one question.
The decision has not been made to change it. The decision has made to review and make the recommendation to change it or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just a question, and I didn't have full information on that. Thank you.
I think teacher leadership is missing on here too. Yeah, gotcha.
I mean, I said this earlier, this is, we've never looked at something like this so early.
Right.
We've been often criticized by putting new initiatives in budget processes. So let's let it kind of, what do I want to say? Mature, yeah. And keep our pencils sharp because this is by no means a finished document, but also let's not discuss it in full form tonight because it's got a lot of work and being integrated into a lot of our efforts.
It's really helpful. And so thank you for putting this together this early. I think it's a great framework and we can continue to drive that whole discussion. So I think this is a great document to start with.
Julie.
Thank you. I was just going to add then a couple of other things that we might want to consider including. We just spoke about how we'll discuss next week DEI considerations. I don't know what kind of implementation any of them might call for, but that might be something we want to capture. There's been discussion about taking another look at athletics and how it's funded and what it costs us. And we're not using the dirty word, but some sort of exercise there. I know there are members of the board that certainly have an appetite for that. And then just, well, two more things, I guess. During the budget process, we had a number of conversations about our PPTs and how many we have and do we have more than others. And I think that there was some interest. I'm interested in understanding better how many PPTs we're having per student. Is it more than the average? Is there something that we can be doing to make our PPTs more robust, more, I don't know what the right word is, but some sort of work in that area, I think was something that was discussed. So I want to put that out there. And lastly, just in kind of reviewing this at a top line level, I'm not seeing anything that speaks to looking for efficiencies or streamlining or any way to take anything out. So I'm sure we'll have more conversations about that, but it feels to me, even if we're just talking about looking at it from the standpoint of what did we defer from this year to next year? What kind of work do we need to do on that list of deferrals to try to not have them come back to us next year, just at next year's prices and nothing different about them, if that makes sense.
Yep. Okay, good. Thank you, everybody, for the feedback. If you have other thoughts, please, per Greg's suggestion, send them in to Dr. Adley with me and copy. And we'll take another look at this next week.
Yep.
Okay, with that, we'll move to the personnel report. Nothing. No. Thank you, March. We'll move to public comment.
Good evening. If anyone in person would like to participate in public comment, please come up to the podium and wait for the chair to recognize you. Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have up to 3 minutes to comment. Please note the time with the chair. If anyone online would like to participate in public comment, please use the raised hand icon. We have no raised hands at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing the performance of the superintendent of schools pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 1206A. That is Sarah, seconded by Robin. All those in favor?